Hey everybody, movie reviewer next door here, and I'm back with another review. This time, continuing the Underworld series with Underworld Evolution. This is an action horror film directed by Len Wiseman from 2006, and it stars Kate Beckinsale, Scott Speedman, Tony Curran, Shane Broley, Derek Jacobi, Stephen McIntosh, and Bill Nighy. In this film, as the war between the vampires and the Lycans rages on, Selene, a former member of the Death Dealers, an elite vampire special forces unit that hunts werewolves, and Michael, the werewolf hybrid, work together in an effort to unlock the secrets of their respective bloodlines. So, what did I think of Underworld Evolution? Well, as you'll remember, I said I like the first film, don't love it, but I could see some issues with it that needed ironing out, and I think this film went about a lot of the wrong ways of doing that, and overall, it's just barely watchable. But let me get to the cast. Kate Beckinsale plays Selene. Again, she's a vampire death dealer. She's, again, pretty good in the role. Um, and she has some cool things to do. It's just, I think, she's kind of wasted in the story. Scott Speedman plays Michael Corvin again. He's still kind of useless, and he really doesn't do anything. Tony Curran plays Marcus Corvinus. He's basically the vampire from the first film that was supposed to be uh, the leader, but instead Victor took his place. Tony Curran, I haven't seen a lot with him in it. Uh, I didn't mind him here, but his character is just so boring and bland that I really didn't care much. I did accidentally turn my volume down. Okay. Shane Burley plays Craven. He's only in one scene or two. He's in one actual scene in present day and a flashback. I've never liked this character or this actor. It's a good thing that he only has one scene in the film. Derek Jacobi plays Alexander Corvinus, the ancient ancestor of. Well, I think he's supposed to be the first werewolf. I like Derek Jacobi. I've always liked him. He does a good job, but he doesn't have a lot to do. Bill Nighy, he plays Victor in flashback in one scene. Well, he's in a he's in this kind of long flashback at the beginning of the movie, and in this little one later in the movie. Again, he's good. And Stephen McIntosh plays Andreas Tanis, a former vampire who was like exiled by Selene. He's fine. The one big thing I have to say against this movie is that the story is boring. The first film has this great story of lichens and werewolves pinned against each other, all because of this very tragic event in one of the werewolves' history. And it was interesting. I actually gave a shit about the plot and the world and all the things going on in it. And the story is basically, oh, the other vampire is awake, that we set up in the last movie. He's a lot less interesting. And his motives for going after Selene are barely existent. Uh, they barely exist. They're apparently he's mad that she killed Victor in the last film. Uh, again, yeah, spoilers in the title for this film and the last film. Yeah, she killed Victor in the last film, so she's just kind of he's like, "Oh yeah, you killed my brother," but even though he that was doing us a favor, but it it's one of those movies where the plot just doesn't make a lot of sense. It feels tacked on. It doesn't really feel like a continuation of anything other than the fact that they're on the run and there's no real like mansion or anything, and the film for some reason feels cheaper than the first. The first one was made for 22 million and had multiple cool sets. The giant kind of wasteland place that they have at the end was a cool location for a final battle. The mansion is really cool looking. A lot of the underground stuff was cool. And again, you had the fun action set pieces in those locations. And here you have a lot of outdoor stuff. You have this underground bunker that the one vampire's gone to, and you have kind of the exact same type of ending in this where they go to some abandoned place and fight the bad guy. And that's another thing that's disappointing about this movie is the action. Um, Again, this film is twice as expensive as the last film, $45 million budget. And for some reason, the action just feels cheap. It feels lifeless. And I don't know why, because the director, Len Wiseman, the director of the first film, also did Live Free or Die Hard and is soon going to be doing Ballerina with Ana de Armas attached to the John Wick like world. Live Free or Die Hard, a lot of people like to shit on it, but I still think it's a great fucking action film. It's not the best Die Hard, I don't think at all. But it's a really like it's a lot of fun. It's pulse pounding. The CGI was better. Again, bigger budget, but still, like I never saw Total Recall, but like this just something about this feels so off. It kind of feels like one of those movies they'd make in Canada to get tax breaks because the story feels so lifeless. It doesn't have it. I feel like all the world building from the first film is kind of just thrown out the window here. It's not like they break any rules. There's this one bit where Celine gets shot in the stomach with a shotgun and is for some reason just okay to continue fighting. And I was like really weirded out by that because I was like, shouldn't she have to regenerate now? I think a shotgun to the stomach would put a whole fucking hole through you, but apparently not. The fucking uh, again, Michael Corvin is such a bland character. Uh, isn't there a character in the fucking I think there's a character in the Crow series named Michael Corvin or something like that, or Michael Corvus, Alex Corvus. I forgot. I think it's the character in the second film that has Corvus, and then it's Corvin. But I don't know. Um, but I'm struggling to think of things to talk about with this one. The story is just so fucking bland. Like I can't think of anything that really happened. Like characters pop up, there's supposed to be some special thing about them where it's like, "Oh, you're the first Lycan," and then in the end of the same scene, he's fucking dead. So there's like no build up to the death or anything like that, and it just feels tacky and just bland. This movie's bland. Uh, like yeah, Celine has a couple things that she does that's kind of cool. There's this bit in an action scene where she gets a SMG like real up close w- in one of the Lycan's stomachs and like shoots like a ton of times. That was cool. The bit at the end, even though it doesn't really make much sense since this should have killed him earlier, the like, and spoiling the ending, the villain played by Tony Curran, uh, this entire time has been like super strong, but for some reason, Celine ripping off his thing that he stuck into her and stabbing him in the head and pushing him into helicopter blades apparently was enough to kill him and just felt really boring. Very lackluster end. And again, the character isn't really built up that well. There's no like build up in the first film for him. The only build up we have is this overlong like flashback at the very beginning that flashes back to Tony Curran and Bill Nighy's characters like burning a village of lichens and something about his brother being locked away. And it's just like, why is this 7 or 8 minutes long? It just feels like padding. And this film is quite a bit shorter than the first. That was one issue I gave the first, but it's still boring in many places. It slows down to a fucking halt anytime there's a dialogue scene. And again, the action, if the action was more interesting, I'd be more into it, but it's not. It's just very lackluster, very CG. A lot of the gunfire, a lot of the werewolves getting shot in this is full on CG blood, and the CG blood does detract from the action. And there's not as much action in this one. There's not as big of a body count. It this legitimately feels like it costs maybe the same or less, and it somehow cost $45 million. I don't know where the fuck that money went. Maybe the CGI, but CGI like that's at times just really poor, even for when this came out. It's like I fail to give it a lower score because I just think this is just a boring movie rather than a horrible movie. Like it's not horrible. The acting is pretty good all around. The visuals are fine. It's not the gothic style of the first film. It's a similar filter, but it's this blue steel filter that at times feels kind of cheap. At times it looks good. There's some nice shots. Len Wiseman is still a good director. I like his directing style, like the cinematography. There's like a couple cool action moments, but overall it's just kind of forgettable and not a good start to the sequels of the series. So a little bit let down for sure. But yeah, that was oh yeah, the score by Marco Beltrami. Marco Beltrami, I've never been a big fan of. He's done a couple okay scores, but yeah. Um, that was my review of Underworld Evolution. If you've seen the film, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. If you have any recommendations, put them down there as well. And movie reviewer next door out.